In a home built on legacy, pride, and complicated loyalties, tensions reached a boiling point inside the Quartermaine mansion once again. As the echoes of past betrayals mixed with the fresh sting of new wounds, Tracy found herself standing in the heart of her ancestral estate with a familiar yet unwelcome dilemma. Lois, her son's ex-wife and Brooklyn's mother, was once again taking up space under the same roof, emotionally and physically. And although Tress's instincts screamed for swift eviction, her calculated mind understood that such a move could fracture the fragile equilibrium holding the family together. Unlike her earlier days of ruthless decision-making, Tracy had learned, albeit begrudgingly, that democracy within the Quartermaine household, or at least the illusion of it, was sometimes a necessary evil. So instead of making a unilateral decision to banish Lois, she gathered the family to solicit opinions. Some might say she did it out of respect, others would argue it was strategic politicking to avoid being the sole target of backlash. But one truth remained. Tracy was tired of chaos in her home, and Lois, with her fiery personality and unfiltered emotions, had always been a spark in the powder keg. Lois, for her part, wasn't exactly shrinking away from the confrontation. Despite the whispers and sideways glances from various family members, she made no attempt to soften her presence. She had come to Port Charles for Gio, for her grandson, for her daughter, and if that made certain people uncomfortable, so be it. She was not there to mend fences with Tracy. She was there because she knew her presence mattered. Brooklyn, caught in the crossfire between her mother and her grandmother, found herself once again playing peacemaker in a household that rarely knew peace. She took a long breath and chose to speak, not in defense or defiance, but in clarity. She didn't deny her faults. She acknowledged them with a raw honesty that took even Tracy by surprise. Brooke admitted she should have told Gio the truth about his parents, about his roots, about the very fabric of the life he thought he understood. She knew that withholding the truth, even with good intentions, had shaken his world. But in the same breath, she reminded the room, and herself, that love wasn't always neat. It wasn't always delivered in perfect boxes with clean ribbons. Sometimes, it came in messy forms, in sacrifice, in silence, and in protection. She had loved Gio fiercely. She had stood between him and the shadows of his past. And whether people saw that as misguided or noble, she did it with a mother's heart. Gio, standing near the window with the weight of revelations resting heavily on his young shoulders, turned to the family. He didn't look at his mother. He didn't look at his father, Dante, who was seated awkwardly in the corner, unsure of whether his presence brought comfort or more confusion. Gio looked straight at Tracy. For a moment, the room fell silent. Gio's voice was steady, not angry, not broken, just deeply certain. He thanked Tracy. He thanked her for raising him with discipline, with opportunities, with a sense of pride in the family name. He acknowledged that she, in her own unyielding way, had given him structure and security. For all her sharpness and scheming, Tracy had never let him feel abandoned. And that meant something. It meant a lot. But even in his gratitude, the pain in his heart couldn't be softened by nostalgia. Gio made it clear that while he appreciated the life he had been given, he still struggled to reconcile with the fact that the two people who brought him into the world, his own parents, had failed him in ways he could not easily forgive. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't cry. But the words cut like a knife through the tension in the room. He hated them. Not out of a place of pure rage, but from a place of deep emotional rupture. Hatred, in this moment, was not just about anger, it was about grief, loss, and the aching confusion of being lied to for so long. Gio felt cheated of the truth, robbed of the chance to form his identity on his own terms. Brooke listened without interruption. She had known these words would come someday. Perhaps not in this way, perhaps not this soon, but they were inevitable. And still, hearing them aloud left her feeling as though the walls she had built around her motherhood were crumbling. Dante, whose silence had until now been mistaken for indifference, finally stood up. But he didn't speak. He didn't defend himself. Instead, he simply walked over to Gio and put a hand on his shoulder. Gio didn't move. He didn't shrug him off. But neither did he lean in. There was distance there, palpable, heavy, earned. As the conversation unfolded further, the atmosphere shifted. The usual Quartermain theatrics, yelling, scheming, interruptions, were notably absent. In their place was something much more uncomfortable: honesty. And with honesty came decisions. Tracy, though proud and still craving order, surprised even herself. She told the family that while she still believed Lois's presence was disruptive, she would not remove her from the house without consensus. She would not fracture what was already fraying. She would allow the house to remain divided if it meant keeping Gio from feeling completely alone. Because for all her criticisms and sharp edges, Tracy had not forgotten the lessons of loss. Brooke, shaken but steady, asked for time. Time to rebuild trust. Time to be the mother Gio needed now, not the one she used to be. Lois, unbothered by Tracy's disdain, pledged to stay, not out of pride, but because she too had watched her grandson break, and she wasn't going to walk away from that. And Gio, standing amidst generations of flawed yet fiercely devoted family, said the one thing no one expected. He wasn't ready to forgive. But he was ready to begin again, on his terms, in his time. The Quartermain household did not find peace that day. But perhaps, for the first time in a long while, it found truth. And in that truth, there was space, not for perfection, but for healing.